Hello everybody and welcome, my name is Ursa Ryan and today I'm going to be doing something just a little bit different, and by different I mean quite classical. Regular viewers of the channel will know that we've been doing the A to Z challenge and next up is the Dutch. However, I wanted a little bit of a break between filming those games. They've been so much fun and I've been really enjoying them, but often they involve challenges, strange ways of playing the game, mods. I wanted to try something just in between that was a little bit more classical. Today, what we're going to be doing is playing a generic game of Civ. I'm going to load up random leader on a shuffle, small map, pretty much with all of the settings left alone. This is literally the screen that I'm looking at, and I'm going to be attempting to over-explain my way through the game, basically imparting as much knowledge as I can in whatever Civ we get and whatever victory condition we choose to go for. Now, the thing that I always preach about on Civ is that as a Civ player, I'm really good at just winging it. That's my effective special ability here. I'm not known as a multiplayer, I'm not known as a speedrunner, but what I am known as is somebody who can adapt my strategies pretty much to whatever game has been put in front of me. Any start, any leader, any victory condition. We play every game once, and I play it very well, I like to think. So today I'm going to be putting, effectively, my word on the line. Can I back up what I've been saying? The one mod I am using, and I kind of feel this is relatively justified, is the Deity mod. Now, I've used this mod before, and actually if I show you here, you can effectively see what it does. This is a mod that adds 2 more levels of difficulty beyond Deity. Now, every single level of difficulty as you crank up from Prince to King to Emperor to Immortal to Deity. Each time you do, effectively the bonuses the AI gets in terms of starting settlers, starting units, starting Eurekas and inspirations, and most importantly, additional modifiers on things like production, faith, gold, science, all of the yields you can get. Every time you go up a step, it gets a little bit difficult. And it's pretty linear. Deity is a mod that adds Deity Plus and Deity Plus on top of Deity. So when we play Deity Plus, I'm effectively playing a game that is the same level of difficulty from Emperor to Deity as it is from Deity to Deity Plus. It's effectively difficulty setting 10. My argument here is that I'm quite good at the game, and if I can pull off a strategy on this level of difficulty, you, the audience, will be able to play a game following these generic strategies on any level of difficulty, and you should receive pretty good results. So let's just start the game. Literally, a shuffle map is a totally randomly picked map. I believe it goes through all of the map types and just picks something. The only gameplay mod I have on is the Deity Plus. It's a genuine random leader, everyone enabled. Small is a 6-player map. Let's see what we get. And you see, I'm just going to talk through this loading screen so that you can see I am genuinely going to play whatever comes up first. The mouse is just doing its little thing as we go in this sort of infinity symbol of deliciousness and wonderfulness. I actually don't know who we're going to get. I'm really looking forward to this. Sometimes when I'm planning the series, it can be a little bit difficult to know what we're going to do. Curtain. Oh my lord, we're going to play Australia today. Now, we'll get into a little bit into what Australia look like and how they go in a second. But as I was saying before, sometimes when you're filming series, when you've done 220 something, picking a really good idea can prove a little bit tricky. So this is a really good way of me deciding on content without having to actually think about it. We have Australia. Okay, Australia are generally considered to be a pretty decent Civ, and actually a really good one for you to practice at home if you want to break into the higher levels of difficulty, so I'm actually quite happy about this one. Citadel of Civilization is a tricky ability to get firing. We'll talk about it a bit later, but when you do, it's one of the strongest in the game. Land Down Under is also a really fun mechanism that can lead to some generically awesome yields of pretty much everything. And it also relies on playing the appeal game, which is quite an interesting one because it generally goes against a lot of the ways that you normally play the game. Outback stations are very, very good. We recently played in the A to Z in Australia game with an alternate version of Australia where we played as the Great Lord Emu. I'd really go and check that out if you haven't seen it. But in that we saw that outback stations are really good on desert tiles. Now I'm going to be using them probably on all sorts of tiles today. They're really cool. And diggers are inventory replacements that can attack with stronger attacks than mechanized infantry. They are amazing for late game domination. And as you can see, this map is a little bit of a mess. That, my friends, is a desert. Oh my lord, look at that. That is absolutely brilliant and horrendous at the same time. Wow. Right, let me just save this game so that I can put this up on Discord. Now this is a shuffle map. We don't know what we're going to get. Is this part of a larger Pangaea? Is it part of a sequence of small archipelago islands? I don't know. All I know is that as Australia, I want to be kind of near the coast for basically as much of the game as we can get. And there's two reasons for that. Firstly, +3 housing in coastal cities works really, really well. If you stick a city on the coast, you effectively get the equivalent housing as if you were on fresh water. It's actually a little bit better than that as well, because the +3 housing stacks onto fresh water as well. So say I had an aqueduct, or if I was on a river or next to an oasis, say, because that gives you fresh water. In fact, this actually, is that a lake? It is a lake. So this is a classic example. If we were to settle on this lake, I would get the +3 from land down under, and I'd also get the freshwater housing. So with the palace, I believe I would start with 9 housing if I settled on the coast and also on the lake. Wow, that is a crazy start. Starting next to lakes and the sea as well also gives you better appeal tiles, because any tile that is next to the sea generally has a little bit of additional appeal. Now you can see we have lots of marshes in this start, generally not a good thing for Australia because Australia likes high appeal and marshes give -1 appeal to surrounding tiles. So you can see on this tile, which is next to a reef, we're going to keep an eye on that for a little bit. It's got 1, 2, 3 ocean tiles, so +3, a wood, so +4, and a marsh, so +3. So wood gives +1 and the marsh gives -1. There is going to be a lot of different factors here as to what we need to do, and this desert looks absolutely huge. I don't know whether this is going to be a very hot map or a very cold map. This desert could be most of the continent. We just don't know. First thing we need to do though is look for a starting location. Now this is obviously a lake. If I settle around it, you get fresh water. I could leave my settler there. I could keep a proximity to the desert and go for a Petra start in order to get as much Petra into a city as we can, but I don't like relying on that for my capital, and the reason is if you miss the Petra city in your capital, all you've done is guarantee yourself a lot of desert, and your capital is going to be a worse city for it, because desert you just really can't do anything with. I do have the ability to put outback stations on, so this is a unique improvement that gives me a food and a production on every tile, but that would only make deserts 1 food, 1 production. It's not brilliant, really. They do get better later into the game, but I won't unlock them for a while anyway. It's guilds, I believe, and you can see it's not until steam power and rapid deployment, which are very late game techs and civics industrial age and I believe modern age, that we get any sort of yield bonuses, apart from if they go near to pastures. And you can see I do have 1 pasture down there, but that's not going to be very good here. So for that reason, flooding myself to the desert, it's not going to be a huge plan for me. However, we have a grassland hills tile. Now, unfortunately, it's not a plains hill, which means if I were to settle on this tile, I wouldn't get a bonus production in my capital. There is, however, amber there, so if I settled on that tile, I'd not only get the luxury from turn 1, but I'd also get that lovely +1 culture as well. It also gives me the benefit of starting on the coast and fresh water, so that gives me all the housing I could ever want. I'm just going to risk it and go for it, and you can actually see the desert extends into the other direction as well. It's pretty mad. That is a tribal hut. Tribal villages are awesome, they're really cool, and this one doesn't look like anybody can get to it, which is quite cool. There's also another reef. Now this is interesting because, yes, as I suspected, the appeal of these tiles is much, much higher. There are some brilliant opportunities for adjacency right here. A reef is worth +2 on campuses. That means immediately I can get to +5 if I put it on a breathtaking tile, and putting districts on deserts generally is a really good move. I also, by the way, have some cattle here. Again, that's really exciting because I can put a pasture down. If I put a pasture down, I get a culture bomb because I'm Australia, and it makes surrounding outback stations a little bit better. So for instance, if I had a pasture down on this tile and I put an outback station on that tile, you can see already it would be worth 2 food, as well as this one being worth an extra food as well. Now I believe the outback station would also make this pasture even better, so there are options here available to us. There is also an option, as soon as you see a pasture of cows in your capital, there is the option to go to the Great Zimbabwe. Now this is a wonder that gives you a lot of extra gold, not only trade route capacity, but it gives you +2 gold for every bonus resource within 3 tiles of the city and in the city's territory when you send a trade route. It becomes a huge, absolutely huge place for sending trade routes generally. It is, however, one of the most difficult wonders to pop down. It's very, very, very difficult. You've got to put a commercial hub down, and it's got to be next to a cattle. So effectively, I'd have to plonk down the commercial hub on this tile and then put the Great Zimbabwe down on this tile. But if I did that, already we're looking at a capital that could kick out some serious gold. So if I'm going to use Great Zimbabwe, I want to be keeping my bonus resources pretty general and pretty in there, which is good. There's also a couple of other wonders that make my trade routes even better, and you'll be pleased to know that the University of Sankor is actually one of them. Now, this only really applies to domestic trade routes, but given the amount of desert we have around our capital, this actually might not be a bad opportunity to do this sort of game. Say, for instance, I put the campus down on this tile. This would give me +2 because of the reef, but don't forget, the appeal hasn't been factored into this just yet. This commercial hub will be a +3 because of the way that there's appeal on that tile. I could put the University of Sankor on this desert tile there. So already we have 2 wonders. The other one, which is a little bit more difficult to put down, is the Torre de Belém. Now this gives international trade routes from the city 2 gold for every luxury resource at the destination. The AI does tend to build that wonder a little bit more. You also can't build it on a lake, but if I were to, for instance, put a harbour down on this tile in order to give the adjacency bonus to this commercial hub, I could in theory put the Torre de Belém on that tile there, leaving me a little bit of option for additional gold routes. I mean, I don't know if we're going to get all of these wonders, but I think in a game when you approach it and you're not sure which victory condition you're going to go for, going for a bit of a gold heavy strat works really well. You can use gold to boost your tourism massively by buying great works. You can also use gold to fund an army, to buy buildings in for gold. That will increase your science. Also, you can buy Diplo favor. Now for Australia, wandering into the desert is only going to be so effective for me. I would actually prefer to stay on the coast so that I can work out what other good settling spots we have. We're going to go into turn 2 now. If I settle, you can see we'll lose a production, unfortunately, because the woods will disappear and it's a grassland hill rather than a plains hill, but this little extra bit of production works really nicely. Now, it's a good thing that I've got that production because I have no other production at all. 3 food, 3 food, 3 food, 4 food, 4 food. This is going to be a very low production start. So gold, and focusing on gold, might actually be a pretty decent one for me. When you've greeted with such an expanse of desert, I would always say getting a scout is a good thing. It helps you to explore, helps you to find tribal huts, helps you to generally get out into the world. Now, question 1. Are we going to go for a religion? This should always be pretty much your first choice in a game. Australia do get holy site adjacency, +3 for breathtaking, +1 for charming appeal. Holy sites also give +1 appeal to surrounding tiles, so you can use them to generate pretty much infinite supplies of appeal around. However, looking at this start, I generally don't have a huge amount of other high appeal tiles that I haven't already planned to work. I don't have a crazy level of production in my capital. Rushing that wonder I think is going to be tricky, and I think getting a religious victory today isn't necessarily going to be something that I'm going to focus on. So instead, what we're going to do is head more towards the first set of wonders and districts, that I want to pick up. Now the harbour, the commercial hub, the campus. The commercial hub and the campus are down the same tree, so I could start on pottery, but there's no point really starting on pottery because I don't need a granary. I already have 9 housing, so there's the 6 from having a freshwater capital, +3 for being on the coast. So instead, I'm going to start with animal husbandry. It does 2 things for me. It should show me how many horses are going to be down on the tiles that I'm discovering now. It also lets me get this cattle in, which will culture bomb a few tiles and will also give me just a little bit more production early stages of the game. So I think for me, that's going to be a good pickup. And there's a few things we're finding down to the south of me. A, there's no AI down here, which is a really good thing. Second, I've got 2 sources of pasture. So I'm just going to mark those out. As Australia, I kind of want to keep those as best I can, especially because in theory, putting outback stations around these pastures generally works out to be pretty good. We also have some plains hills. Now plains hills are really good to settle on because you get that +1 production in the city, as well as having a hill city, which generally are a little bit harder to attack. The unfortunate way about this coast and how the coast has been put together is that all of these tiles have +3 appeal pretty much. But one option for me would be to put a preserve down on that tile. Now this would make 1, 2, 3 tiles into breathtaking tiles. It means that I wouldn't be able to really improve them or settle on them, so I think probably that's going to not be the best option. But we'll keep an eye out for things like reefs. Campuses obviously are always really good shouts, but a theatre square on this tile would also do the trick of making all of the tiles around it high appeal. We call tribal villages goody huts as well, because they are full of delights and wonders. In this one, we have a mysticism boost. Now that's the boost for getting a pantheon. It's one of the worst tribal huts you can get, because you're always going to get a pantheon in a game. That shouldn't be a problem for you. If you're not getting a pantheon, something really weird is happening to your game. You can see my capital now has already sprung to 2 population. Now this is going to be an incredibly high population city. We have a lot of food growth around us. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 tiles that will be able to be boosted. There's one possibility I had with starting with all of these marshes, by the way, is an Etamantanki run. This is a difficult wonder to pick up. Really, you need to be in a jungle or to have another high production start to pull this one off, because the AI will nab it quickly. Any wonder in the ancient era is going to be really tricky for you to pick up. Even some in the classical era are going to be tricky to pick up. I don't have a lot of production in this start. That's why I'm not going through it. I am keeping an eye on the Pantheon that gives you +2 production for marshes though. That would be something that would be very fun. So, as is normally the case, barbarians have spawned right by your capital, and they pretty much have gone straight down to the spot that I was looking at to settle, which is a little bit annoying, but what are you going to do? There's also a barbarian encampment to the north. Having this many barbarians at the beginning of the game is not an unheard of thing. Unfortunately, it happens. It's tough. What are you going to do? Already the Barbs have found me from that city, but I have just waited until the discipline card has come in before I start attacking. That gives you a +5 combat bonus against barbarians and just helps for me to be able to just try and destroy the city. Now, you can, if you've got some faith coming in per turn because you found a faith city-state, or you've got a relic, or you've got another faith-bearing tile, you don't have to go for God King, but otherwise, I would always suggest going God King to get that Pantheon as quickly as possible. It always works better than urban planning. That does give you +1 production, it is really good. I have a low production start, but I'd rather put that in once I've got multiple cities all leeching that additional production. Discipline is just an early game essential card to have in. Next up, I would always traditionally go for craftsmanship, especially if you've got a low production start, because a Gogi is going to be really, really handy at cranking out those slingers. Slingers are always a very good thing to go for early stages of the game, especially when you have low production. Now, 27 turns in order to get a settler out is tough. I'd rather have slingers. I'd rather get those out quickly in order for me to just basically not die to a barb assault. I'm also now going to just go and pick up this little tribal hut. You can see there is only the one reef down here, so this is only going to be a +5 campus, which is still pretty impressive, but you know, nothing too good. I'm now going to go to pottery so that we can look to get the campus. You can also see that we have found one source of horsey sauce, just below us to the south. Tasty. 2 pastures. Actually having them next to each other is really good, because suddenly you can start getting some very decent outback stations. It also means we can use horsemen early stages of the game, which is always a very handy thing. So what's in this tribal village? A recon unit. That's not a bad one. It means I've got an additional scout that can go and explore the map. Now, this is where we find ourselves on a very small desert island that nobody is going to be on, and it's going to be of no use to us. But what are you going to do? What I can do actually is just pin down this barbarian scout with my 2 scouts. It'll level them up nicely and stop the barbarian from going back and tattletaling on me. Oh, saying that, Barb horsemen have appeared already. Now, Barb horsemen appear whenever a barbarian outpost is within 3 tiles of a horse unit on the map. They're 20 strength, but more importantly, they're very, very fast. It's a bit of a problem. My scouts are not going to be able to kill them. They can hold their own if I'm defending especially if I'm defending in my own land, they should be fine. But that's a really tricky ask. I'm going to have to pull my unit back and see if I can get back into my own land to defend. I'm also going to just defend on this hill tile for a second. It's a very good defendable location. You get +3 combat bonus from being on a hill and +3 from being on a wood. Those combined gives me a +6 defensive bonus. You can also get a fortification bonus if you're waiting for long enough as well. To the north, this warrior has been slowly whittling down a Barb encampment. You want to attack 3 times. As soon as you attack 3 times, you have 15 experience and you can level up. And I would always go for Battle Cry early stages of the game because it helps you to clear more barbarians. Now, the reason we're rushing that is because I want to get the bronze working boost so that I know where the iron is. Iron is a really useful resource. Even if I'm not going particularly warlike, I want to find the iron as quickly as I can so that I can sell it to the AI once I start digging it up. Now, did you see that? Even though a scout is 10 strength and a barbarian is 20, they did 26 damage to my 39 because I'm on the hill, and I healed 10 at the end of that as well. Now there's so many barbs. This is why going for a bit of a slinger rush beginning of the game sometimes can be a really good move. Era score for defeating the Barb camp plus military tradition boost gives me a little bit of benefit from having cleared that encampment. So now that I've got pottery, I'm going to pick up writing. I want to see if I can put that campus down nice and quickly. Because I've got a slinger, I'm also going to see if I can escape this scout out to the north. I might be chased down by horsemen, I might not be. Yeah, it looks like they're going to probably come towards me, but if I can leave them away from my city, it's not the worst result either. But I want to see if I can continue exploring, even with the Barbs attacking me like this. Now you can see this scout has been on the hill for some time now, which means I am very fortified. I also don't mind the Barbs really kind of invading my land at the moment because I have no improvements down. I've got nothing to pillage. My scouts can upgrade, so I will upgrade it. I tend to go for Alpine. There's a couple of reasons for that. Moving faster in woods and rainforests is a really, really good move, but Alpine means you can go onto hills. Hills give you better visibility. It is a scout after all, so I'd rather stick to the hills because it lets me scout more. It's generally pretty good. I would also go down this side of the tree. I mean, additionally, it doesn't really matter which side you start on. You can go down either side, but ambush is a good promotion you want to aim for because that +20 combat strength means that your scouts can punch kind of like better warriors, but almost swordsman level strength. They can be very powerful. So the Barb horses are actually attacking my city. That's a really, really good thing. The bad thing is that we've now got barbarian horse archers. This means we've got to change our strategy slightly. They're ranged troops. Again, they spawn when horses appear within 3 tiles of the Barb encampment. I can't just leave the scout on that tile. It will start to die. So I need to use slingers in order to destroy those. I think we should be fine. We should be able to do that with relative ease. However, we're going to give the Barb an opportunity to attack itself on me. And actually, it's run off for now. Never back away unless you need to with barbarians. They tend to be quite flighty. You can see Jerusalem has appeared and somebody has met them, which means that there is another AI in this direction. A little bit unfortunate because that envoy would have given us +1 faith per turn, and +1 faith per turn would be really good at getting that Pantheon out quickly. Now, I'm going to switch to a Gogi. I'm going to lose the +5 combat strength when fighting Barbs, which isn't great, but it does let me produce troops a little bit quicker, and a slinger in my capital now means not only have I got the archery boost, but I can also start to fight back against these Barbs. There is no point at the moment going for infrastructure or the settlers. I will just die. So I'm going to be producing these slingers for a little while anyway. I'm now going to beeline towards foreign trade as well. I kind of like the idea of getting galleys out because they are really good to explore. But equally, I want to get to early empire to get the colonization card, which gives me 50% more production towards settlers. Really helps to get out in the early stages of the game. Magnificence France. Okay, as a neighbour, Magnificence France is actually a pretty good one. She generally tends to be reasonably peaceful, and she buys duplicates of luxuries, and she buys luxuries for a lot of money, so generally pretty useful. You generally don't want to give your capital away, especially if I am kind of around, so I'm not going to give my information away just for now. I want her to find me. Equally, I think I can find her. Never give your capital away if you can help it. It does unfortunately mean that your neutral meeting can sometimes be put off. She likes me -10, and you generally get a worse relation with the AI if you don't show them where you live. But as I mentioned, Magnificence France does tend to buy luxuries quite well. Now, often the AI will not pay full gold the first turn they meet you. So instead of selling luxuries on the first turn, before they denounce you, you can see, look, it takes them 2 turns to denounce you. It's always worth checking. And look, there's another 2 gold per turn I just got on waiting on that one. So do you go for gold or gold up front? I would get 132 if I just bought it up front, or 6 gold per turn. It would take me 22 turns in order to get all that gold, and Civ is a snowball game. I really want that gold up front as quickly as possible, because then I can spend it immediately. That means that I can buy districts, I can buy builders, and more importantly, I'm almost ready to get the settler. If I can settle pretty quick, that would be pretty cool. Now you see there's a wreath up to the north. I've also got some more horses, some sources of horses, as well as having some reasonably high appeal tiles up to the north here as well. So some really cool stuff. I think settling in that northern area might not be a bad idea actually, so we'll kind of keep an eye out for that. And I think that's someone else. I don't think that is Magnificent's colours. Ooh, do you see all of these resources? There's a yield, there's a culture, and a science on this tile. If I check the appeal, I'd also see that there's a very high appeal tile there as well. I think that is going to be a natural wonder in this area. Signy in particular. And look, we found France. We didn't actually need to ask them for where they were. We found them naturally. One of the biggest tricks I can give for Deity into playing Civ is to watch the city-states. Look at what you've got and play accordingly. I have 2 faith city-states, so suddenly playing a religion doesn't seem like such a bad idea. Each city-state gives the opportunity of getting another 6 faith per city-state into your holy site. That would be 12 with 2 of them. It also means that I could go for the Kilwa, which gives me another faith bonus across my empire if I had 2 faith suzerains. So there are some really good ones here. So I'm suddenly thinking about getting a religion now. It's a bit of a flake, I appreciate, but what are you going to do? The other thing I want to be doing is putting my districts down very quickly so that I can start to lock in the production. Now, the production and how much a district costs gets higher over time. The more techs, the more civics you unlock, the worse it gets. As soon as you put a campus down, or any district, it locks in that production and it never gets higher, which is why you often see people put a district down and then switch away from it immediately. I'm saving up my gold. I need 320. I don't want to buy this tile for 55. That's why I'm not doing that. I'm actually going to explore in the other direction, away from France, because it's more likely I'm going to find tribal villages if I head south and west. You can see though how full of desert this map is. It's very desert heavy. So it looks like Shuffle has given us quite a hot map today, but that's okay. We can take that. Now, the observant amongst you will notice that I took the garrison promotion. If you're defending a city, garrison gives you plus 10 strength. It makes your slingers hit with 25 strength. It's very tough. I've also pulled my warrior back because I'm just about to get my settler. I kind of want to be able to escort them. Never send a settler out without being accompanied. Now, at the moment, it looks like there's quite a few barbarian horse archers. Not looking very useful for me at the moment. I would rather not have to fight those, being honest. But if you do have to fight them, the best thing you can do is often just throw your units towards them. Now, this warrior, unfortunately, has just also found another horseman, so it's going to take a little bit of damage. In order to keep it alive, what I'm going to do is move my slingers out, get them ready, so that I can attack any units that come towards me. We're going to go a little bit aggressive to try and fight them off here. Okay, so they are attacking, they're reorganizing, but as we kind of hoped, they've moved their units into sort of a slightly strange way that leaves them open to counterattack. I'm going to move this warrior around, get the slinger around, and start to attack their units. Now, the warrior is really, really tough here. Generally, it works pretty well. I'm going to get my settler with gold, which gets me a second city and hopefully gives me something that can give me a little bit more production than we've got already. My warrior has taken some damage. I'm going to have to pull them back, but you can see my slingers have actually managed to get into a position where they can take down one of the barbs. That's a good result for me there. And with this encampment to the south, I don't really trust myself settling down there right now. So I'm going to move my settler to the north and we're going to go and settle up into this area. Now again, the Barbs are fighting back and they're fighting back hard. It's not a good look for me, unfortunately. I'm going to move my settler up to the north. We're going to have to do a little bit of reorganizing. I might lose a slinger here, but getting the city out is going to be the priority. I'll move that unit through. I will get this slinger to attack and kill the horseman. That protects my settler effectively. And I'm going to move my warrior up just to scout a little bit ahead. Now, again, I might lose a slinger here, but if I'm going to lose anything, a slinger is probably the best thing to lose because it's the lowest production unit I've got. Yep, we lost it accordingly. Never mind, that is absolutely fine. So I've unlocked astrology. That gives me holy sites and lets me think about making a religion. I'm going to rush archery so that I can get a couple of archers out. Archers are much more powerful at defeating barbs, and generally you can secure yourself a lot easier. You can see France as well is kind of settling all over this continent, and they're kind of doing a little bit of an annoying job, really. I'm also thinking about appeal and where I'm going to settle. This marsh is lowering appeal, but we probably could get lots of extra production depending on the pantheon that I pick next turn. So I'm just going to move my settler in and kind of hold fire for a second and see what we get. So because I sold my luxury to Magnificence France, they are pleased that I'm trading my luxuries to her. I should get a little bit of luck with that later down the line. I think I might have absolutely just managed to pull this off and keep my warrior alive somehow. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do that, but my scout is now going to leap from my city, and you can see we're going to pin down this Barb encampment. If I can clear that, it would be really, really good. Great Bath, Etimentanki. Etimentanki's already gone, so it's kind of as I said, really. That wonder is incredibly difficult to get. Now, annoyingly, I need 25 faith to found Pantheon, and I've picked up 24 before having to switch, so I have to keep God King in for now. I'm producing some military still. I think it's better to keep a Gogian right now than go Discipline. Actually, no, Discipline will just help me keep my troops alive for a second, so we're just going to hold off on that. But here is the Pantheon. What is still available to us? Now, I think, yeah, Breathtaking Appeal is still given to us as a Pantheon. Now, this gives you +1 faith for every tile with Breathtaking Appeal. Generally, a really good deal for Australia. However, it's not, because I want all those high appeal tiles to have districts on them. So that kind of clashes and gives me too many things to do on one set of tiles. So I don't want to go for that too much. You can see the AI has taken Holy Site adjacency from Desert. That would have really thrown a spanner in the works had I had that as an option, and I'm kind of glad that it's gone. So we're going to take a bit of a gamble with Australia. Unfortunately, marshes give negative appeal, which generally isn't good. But Lady of the Reeds and Marshes gives me 1, 2, 3, 4 marsh tiles in my capital that'll all get +2 production. We will go from having a 4 production city to a 12 production city. It also means that I can settle up to the north and get 2 marsh tiles here as well. So it's just too good an option for me. It's going to give me too many powerful tiles, and suddenly there's a 4-2, a 3-2, a 3-2, and a 4-2 in my capital. I am producing units and districts with abandon now. It's going to be brilliant. We're going to get Slinger and then follow up with a builder so I can get this pasture down and we can get a little bit more production in. Also going to settle city number 2. Again, a lovely tile to settle on, and I get +3 housing from being on a coast, which means already I have 6 population and we should be running fine. Now what I'm actually aiming to do right now is to hit a Dark Age. I really do kind of want to hit a Dark Age here. It would be very, very helpful. I've also managed to lure the spearmen out of their encampment just by leaving my Slinger there. So I'm going to pull back quickly, and then I can move my scout through and just pick it up. It does give me 3 era score. It is on my doorstep, but as long as I don't get another era score, I'll hit a Dark Age. So that generally is pretty good for me. 4 turns, I'm going to kind of stop exploring for a second. Any tribal hut, any meeting of a new civ, all of these things would be bad news bears. So I've picked up archery. I'm going to get sailing quickly so that I can get galleys unlocked. The spearman keeps attacking my scout, but because I'm not moving and I'm fortifying on a hill, I'm getting a huge defensive bonus as well as healing every turn as well. Very handy. I have the ability to now upgrade to archers as well, which is a really handy thing, but save your gold. If you don't need to do it, there's no point in doing it. And you see, I should hit a Dark Age. Now, the good thing about hitting a Dark Age in the classical era is that you can aim to get a heroic age in the medieval. It's a huge, huge ability. Also, if I'm building holy sites, which I am planning on doing, I can get a lovely card that gives me extra science. To make that better, I'm going to get Exodus of the Evangelists, and we're going to look to get our own religion. Now, nobody's got any religion points at the moment, but that will change because lots of the AI will have now gone into golden ages and we will be generating great people points. Exodus of the Evangelists will give quite a big bonus. You can see actually that this city is now getting pretty significant loyalty pressure, which is not good. Part of that loyalty pressure is the fact that I have -3 for happiness level because it has -1 amenities. That's not good. I did, however, see that France did have a resource for sale. They unfortunately haven't got that anymore, which is a little bit of a problem. So we have to make sure that we get 1 more luxury into my nation. I'm going to get myself a governor in 2 turns. That's not a bad thing, but it's definitely something that we need to address quickly. Now, a little bit of extra population. You'll see the loyalty pressure has changed just a touch. That's a good thing. I can also now get my first pasture in. Now this will culture bomb all the tiles around like so. Unfortunately, it did give me that tile before I had the chance to stop it. It's a little bit unfortunate that, but what are you going to do? You can also see that now that a turn has gone through, nobody went for Exodus of the Evangelists. So, religions, we might still get the first one. Might not, but we might. Equally, it's an interesting choice. I'm going to pop down a holy site on this desert tile because I think it's probably the worst that I can put it on, which is quite good. It would have been a good outback station, but there weren't many other +1 tiles that I could have worked at that point. Early Empire means that I've got my first governor, and I wanted to put Pingala in my capital, but actually making sure that this city has a governor as well is important. And this city looks more like a Magnus city. I like having a Magna city and a Pingala city. Now the Pingala needs to go in a high pop city, like my capital at the moment has 6 population, because once you get connoisseur and researcher, that would be worth a huge amount of science and culture. Magnus, however, gives you the ability to get provision, which means that you can produce settlers without making a dent in your population. So that is going to be a good call for me. I've also now stabilized the loyalty in this city at the same time, which makes a big difference. Let's switch to urban planning to give my cities a little bit more production, and we need to now work towards getting another governor. You can see state workforce is the next one. Building a specialist district, which I'm now doing with my holy site, will speed that up nicely. So Catherine says that she likes me. I want peace and friendship with her as quickly as I can because I have a border with her and there is a galley waiting outside, which means she might go to attack me soon. So if I can send her a delegation, that would be good. I'm going to unlock, actually we could send them open borders like so. I'm going to do that because it's a favourable deal to her as well as giving open borders. So now she likes me +9. I'm hoping that will be enough to convince her to be super friends with me and for her not to attack me. I'm also moving my slingers out a little bit now in order to maximize visibility on this continent, just so that barbs don't spawn, really. And look, there we go. The unhappy face disappeared. Send a delegation. Yes, she is going to hopefully make friends with me. That's what I'm hoping anyway. Friendship with France would mean that I'm not worrying as much at all about stability or, well, being attacked just at the last minute. Delegation back at me, that gives me my 25 gold back, that's really good. My first farm in my capital goes down now as well. There we go, irrigation boosted. I'm also just going to quickly pop down the campus to lock in the adjacency and the cost of that district as well. State workforce boosted. Brilliant. That's a lovely thing to see. I'm just moving down to get this farm sorted as well. My capital's now got 10 housing. It's got -2 amenities. The huge amount of population in this city is unfortunately squeezing my, amenities, but it's not too bad an option. You can see I'm now building the campus as well. This is going to be a +5 campus. That's a big deal, a really big deal. I've got my first holy site as well. I'm thinking now about getting holy site prayers in order to rush a religion through. Stonehenge hasn't been built yet, which means the first religion is still an option. If we can get Feed the World. Feed the World is probably the best belief in the game. Now, a lot of people go for work ethic, and in particular circumstances, say your holy sites were getting work ethic bonuses from the desert, that would be a really, really good pick. But Feed the World is generally really good at getting housing and food across your empire generally. Now, again, look at this. France is not accepting friendship, and she is absolutely just keeping units around me. So I'm just going to flick, unfortunately, to having to just make some galleys. I might lose this city, but with a bit of a galley rush, we should be able to claim it back. I'm also going to start moving some of my units up in this direction as well. So one strategy is I could actually sell them the city. This is something where if you see the AI eyeing up a city and you don't think you can actually protect it, 49 gold per turn and 134 gold is nothing to sniff at. I could immediately just settle another city, especially if I were to then wrap around and give myself a huge loyalty pressure on them. I could basically stop them from ever doing that again. It's tricky to pull off, but if you can do it, it would be really cool. The question is whether this city is giving me anything, and the answer is no. It's a bit of a weird strategy, this, and I appreciate, seeing it in action can be tricky, but if I just claim all the gold up front I can, this is what the deal looks like. 333 gold, which is basically enough for another settler, and 39 gold per turn. It's mad, but I'm going to do it. The city springs over to France. I'm going to now just keep Magnus in my capital for a second, but if I just let this sort of happen in a second, you'll see that my city is going to very quickly become epic. Told you this was going to be a masterclass. It's going to be a masterclass in some strange tactics, but a good one nonetheless. Actually, the good thing about this as well is that actually they're going to give my city a huge amount of extra infrastructure. And look, there we go. Now they'll be friends with me. So that was the point. They didn't want to make friendship as long as that city existed because they wanted to claim it for themselves. Now that they have it, there's no need for war. Don't worry though, we will get it back. Pingala. It is Pingala time. I'm going to switch Pingala over into my capital. This will give me a huge amount more science and culture once this all works out. And I'm just going to flip in maritime industries. Now this gives me 100% extra production when making galleys. I'm going to just give myself a bit of a galley army so that I can attack out a little bit more. Let's have a little plan about where I want to stick my cities, because getting this right is going to be important. I want to be able to get as maximum amount of loyalty pressure on as I can, but I don't want my cities to be totally useless. Settling near Geelong is a really good stage and a really good step for me, and I think like a double campus placement over there is going to be a good call for action. So I'm going to have to put the city centre right there just to settle right up against them. One city, one city, one city, and then what I can do is actually make a nice canal network, which would be pretty cool. I'll put another city there. These are all horrible desert cities, but if I can find Nazca on the map, that would be cool. I don't know if Nazca's on the map, it probably isn't. But if it is on there, then that'll be fun. Let's just buy the settler quickly, and then my population will recover next turn. I can settle right up against France, who, don't forget, they have now declared friendship with me. There's nothing they can do about this. I'm going to settle right up to them. I've got an envoy with Leventa. That gives me +1 faith in my capital for shrines and also just for being capital as well. So that's a really cool thing. Catherine got Colossus. We want to keep that in mind. I can just nab the Barb encampment, which was just round the back. Lovely stuff. I think I might have liberated this space of the map for myself quickly as well. Let's just move the slinger back. I don't want to take the risk there. So my luxury is available to trade with France again. They don't have it. They're only giving me 3 gold per turn. That's not good enough. I'm going to save that. It's because they have nothing of their own to sell. Let's go and see if there's anything else we can claim here. I might be able to take, 20 diplomatic favour from them. That's a cool option. No, I think we'll keep it for now. It's giving my city just a little bit more happiness. So here is my city. They're not going to like that particularly, but honestly, we don't mind. Settle too close. Oh, France. We're not going to really be listening to that. I will take your diplomatic favour because I can probably then sell it back to you. We're not going to make super friends with France, really. I want to kind of claim this continent for myself. And it's like, actually, yeah, look, I can pretty much bankrupt them by selling them their favour back to them. So that's cool. There's the campus. It's finished. We've got 11 science coming in per turn. France is doing really well with 38, and we're very much in last right now. But I'm only 2 techs behind them. It's not too bad a start, really. I'm going to move my builder to that tile, and I'm just going to quickly, next turn, nab it, because I can culture bomb this horse to steal back my marsh tile, as well as access to the reef. They're really not going to like that, but again, they've locked in friendship with me, and it's plenty of time for me to build myself a bit of a navy. So here we go. Let's do the old culture bomb Reno. Bam. That's going to make that city even worse, and as I say, gives me beautiful access to this marsh tile, which makes my life a lot easier. My shipbuilding has been boosted. I'm going to quickly pick up a trader. And you can see my capital currently has a minus 10% penalty on yields from amenities. It's, really restricting my science by 1. It's my production by 1.5. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly purchase these turtles from France. I can then sell back diplomatic favour to basically get my money back and horses and things, but it's worth just sort of giving myself just a little bit more yield in my capital. I'm just going to put down this tile and harvest the wheat because I'm going to stick a holy site down on this tile. Should be a nice +4, I hope, and will give me a bit of a boost to era score. If I can go for golden, that would be lovely. So do I want gold from a trade route, or do I want food and production? I think I want food and production. I'm going to put it in Brisbane, and I'm going to move it across. That's going to be a good one for me. Holy site, nice +4, as discussed. It's always really good to get these holy sites down as quickly as you can. Nobody's got a religion yet, which is mystifying, and I'm going to just roll with it. If I can get that religion first, I'm not going to complain. And finally, a very special shout out goes to Glorious Petra, Salty Tech, Matthew Wilkinson, Paul Coffey, Doughboy91, Scott Stratton, Major King Kong, Davalek, Skeptical Bear, Kroger Brand Trail Mix, Alex Noob, Cinnamon Beard, Portland, Petra Ryan, Matthew Hatch, Emir EC, Henry, Rom88, Radiatore, and Private Selection Genoa Salami for all of your support, as well as everybody that leaves comments and interacts with the channel generally. Thank you so much. See you all next time.